I've been dealing with health issues for most of my life, and they've come and gone, and I've found remedy often in distraction when it comes to health issues. And my body's been quite resilient when I was younger, and in that resilience, I was able to pass through health issues quickly. And when I got older in my body, I'm now 53. I'm 53 if you count the 9 months in the womb in November. In regards to the body itself, the avatar, I'm actually eternal. I'm an eternal spiritual being having an experience in this avatar. But this avatar is 53. It's had 53 revolutions around our sun, I should say, in November, if you include the 9 months, which is, let's say 52 in 9 months. Who's counting? Anyway, so about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I began to really notice how my body was not able to cope with the amount of toxins that were going into it. And also, that toxic situation was not just the physical toxins, environmental toxins, toxins from substances, drugs, especially drugs, and also from toxins from food, sugar being the big one for me. At the time I was eating a lot of chocolate, a lot of sugar was going to my body to feed candida, to feed the candidiasis that was growing in my body, and was causing me to have enormous shifts in my microbiome and my immune system, and therefore my skin was erupting on my hands in a way that I had tinea manum on my hands, like a fungal infection on my hands, because my gut was so proliferated and was leaking all the substances I was eating in regards to food were leaking out of through my gut lining wall, which was not present at all, and it was coming through my skin, and I was having awful breakouts of eczema. Tinea manum on my hands, which is a fungal infection on my hands, and had other fungal infections, toe jam or toenail fungus, and other fungal infections coming through my skin as a consequence of that. And in April this year, actually it really started last year in December, I noticed on my right hand a fungal infection over this finger here, and then here as well, between the fingers. And I wear gloves at work, because when I'm painting I wear gloves to keep my hands free of the paint, which often dries my skin out anyway. So I wear gloves, and in my gloves my hands get sweaty, and of course that can assist the growth of fungal infections on my skin. If I have a fungal infection on my hand, that damp heat will create fungal infections. So my cycle of infection has been ongoing for a number of years due to the nature of my exposure to environmental toxins. In 2020, I stopped taking drugs. I've been straight edge for almost 4 years. But my body had packed away all those toxins into into my shoulder, into my liver, into my kidneys. Parts of my body had basically, wherever my body could store those toxins, it stored them everywhere in my body. In regards to joints, everywhere it could store packages of toxins. So when I stopped taking drugs, I began a very slow and incremental detox process. And I think that I hit a threshold at some point in that detox process, and my body was unable to actually discharge and release the toxins in a way that was slow. I was overwhelmed because my detox process was beginning to speed up in regards to what I was doing, but also the amount of foods I was putting into my body, superfoods especially, foods that supposedly are the best thing for you. My body was so overwhelmed by the superfoods I was taking, maca, vital greens, my probiotics, MSM, DMSO. I was taking so many substances, superfoods, to help the body to do its detox process, not really trusting that the body had its own detox process going on, and I wasn't actually paying attention to my body's own processes, which were slow and gentle, rather than pushing myself into a place of unnatural, fast detoxing, which caused my body to be overwhelmed, and the toxins in my body that were being released from for many, many, many years of toxic exposure through work in regards to painting, smoking cigarettes, taking drugs. Toxins I just built up in my body through years and years and years of abuse. And if you look back at that trail of why I was doing these things, why I was taking drugs, why I was smoking cigarettes, why I was moving to chocolate, why I was eating emotionally, when I was eating the food when I felt a particular way, when I felt sad or depressed, or felt vulnerable, or felt like I couldn't deal with the situation, or was triggered by a situation with people or my own memories, I'd go to eat a particular food, that being would be sugar for me. It was an emotional kick. I would get the emotional desire to have one of those things, like some sweets or some chips or some fried food, anything that would comfort me in a way emotionally, I would move towards it. And those foods that I was eating at the time were toxic to my body. If I ate them in small doses, they wouldn't have been so toxic, but I was eating a lot of those particular foods because I was so charged by the emotional trauma that I was experiencing, because I didn't want to do the work. And when I was triggered, I didn't want to do the work either because I didn't have energy for it. At the time I was working so much, or I just didn't want to deal with it. So I'd look for distraction, whether that be sex or drugs or rock and roll or smoking or food, whatever it would be. I would look for distraction in my life rather than doing the work. And when I got to that place 10 to 12 years ago, when I said, look, that's enough, I've got to stop this, otherwise I'm going to get cancer, because I'm packaging all these toxins away and they're not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything to give my body a chance to actually get rid of them. I've got to stop and reset my entire gut biome and reset my gut, really, in a way that would enable my gut lining to repair itself, and for my body to get to a semblance of how it was before I was abusing the shit out of it with drugs and also with food. But it comes back to one very important notion in that cycle. Food and drugs were the last cab off the rank. The first cab off the rank that I really wasn't dealing with was the emotional trauma. And the emotional trauma was basically the seed that grew into this forest of desire to find distraction through temptation, and through drug use, food use, environmental toxins, and also distraction through sex. So it was the emotional content, the emotional trauma that was triggering all the other responses. And now in 2023, as I'm going through my own health issues once again in regards to horrendous eczema, horrendous psoriasis, fungal infections on my skin, in my ears, in my ear canals that are so inflamed and swollen I can hardly hear anything, and the pustulant fluid that comes out of my ears, it sounds horrendous, and it really is not the most pleasant situation. I have phases where I'm eating basically pretty much a paleo diet, but I've taken it back to really just vegetables and meat and organic meats, organic and free range meats and bone broths. It's all I'm having at the moment because my body can only handle that. And I'm having supplements in regards to glucosamine for my intestinal wall lining. I'm taking wormwood for parasites, and slippery elm for my gut to heal my gut as well. And a probiotic, that's all I'm having at the moment to help my body process the toxins that are flowing around and find a way to get them out. They're coming out through my skin in abundance. But I'm bringing it back to a place where I understand that part of this experience that I'm going through this year is someone who I'm working with at the moment, Dr. David Cumley, has told me that has said to me through testing in kinesiology, has said to me, you need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive yourself for everything that's come before, because there's a lot of energy around me in my being of a lack of forgiveness for a lot of my actions in the past, forgive myself for my behavior in the past, and forgive myself and also thank my body, which I do often, for allowing me to still be here in it. Because realistically, with the amount of drugs that I've done in my life and the toxic poisons that I've put into my body over 53 years almost, it defies belief that I'm actually really here still. I had a cocaine habit the size of David Bowie in 1973, 74. I had a massive cocaine habit for 4 years in Vancouver. I came back here and it continued on in the mid 2010s. And now that I've been straight for 4 years, and the amount of shit that I put into my body, with other substances as well, especially cigarettes and other fun things like MDMA and pills, acid, all kinds. There's a list of things I put in my body, a list of substances I was ingesting, but not in a way that was infrequent. I was doing it frequently, like every other weekend or every weekend. I was often, sometimes during the week, which is just fucking crazy. But I was doing it because I didn't have the energy to be able to address the emotional issues and the shadow work that I needed to do. And this experience now, being straight, being sober, and understanding the nature of why I'm actually, on some level at least, why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing in regards to my health, is because of the lack of forgiveness. Because I'm on some level, a deep level of emotional trauma for me still. I'm unable to forgive myself for my experiences and for what I've done to my body. And for me to address my health issue, it really needs to start back here with the emotional content, because it goes from the less dense eventually into the dense. And the less dense is the emotional, vibrational, energetic matrix of energy that comes with the understanding that illness starts here in the emotional, in the field of your electromagnetic energy that surrounds you. So your thoughts and your emotional projections into that field of energy that surrounds you, that torsion field that surrounds you, if they're coming from a place of lack of coherence with your heart, you are definitely out of balance. In my perspective, you're out of balance. But once you're in your heart space, you find that torsion field begins to get into the harmonious state with the planetary consciousness, with the cosmic consciousness, and then therefore you are in a place of great alignment. In that alignment, you find yourself coming to a place of deeper peace. And in that peace, you have the best optimum health, because you are tuned energetically to from the micro to the macro. And for me, for the last few months, maybe 6 months, 6 months actually, almost 6 months, I have been in conflict with myself. And that conflict comes from many situations and many levels, but the conflict comes back to now me coming to understand that I need to forgive myself in my body for my behavior the last 6 months in regards to the conflict I created with myself, in regards to how I perceive my reality, in regards to me having those human traits like comparing my life to someone else's life, me not being able to be grateful for the experiences I'm having and going through, and looking at all these situations that have caused the conflict in my life and haven't allowed me to be able to forgive myself for my behavior and my thoughts and the words that I've chosen to use. All these situations that have gone into making my health less than optimum. This is where it starts. Everything else that kind of follows on from that will begin to heal itself when the emotional work is done first. I do the emotional work first, then the process will begin in my body. I'll begin to see a change in my skin, in my gut, in my alignment with source energy, and of course the food that I'm putting in my body would also help to endeavor to create an experience of healing within the physical body itself, because I'm putting in foods that are nourishing for the gut, nourishing for the microbiome, nourishing for my health in general, rather than foods that are detrimental to my health, as I'm going for this process of forgiveness. And it's really important that we come to that understanding that when you want to really cure yourself of health issues, look at the entire holistic picture, and it often will start, and in my experience, it starts with the emotional content. It's the emotional programs that are running through your body, the patterns that are running through your mind, especially your mind. The patterns that run through your mind, the thought patterns, the visual memories, the visualizations, and what you're seeing and perceiving, how you choose to use your words, when you express yourself and what you say about your body. I'm talking about my body right now. I'm talking about my ill health. My body's hearing my words, and it's reaffirming my experience of having an illness at this time in my life. But I understand what I'm saying now is also cathartic, because I'm being vulnerable enough to realize that I have an issue here. And this issue here is the seed that's growing the forest over here. But I understand that, right? And me knowing this and going about my processes of healing here, I know that this domino will knock all the dominoes over in the forest, and eventually the forest will begin to wilt away. I can replace it with a forest from my heart of alignment, of coherence, and entrainment with not only the planetary consciousness but the cosmic consciousness from my heart space, and by being in my heart and attuning to my heart. And that will bring to me optimum health spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And that's where I want to be. I want to be back in that place of optimum health, so I can live my life without pain, because I'm living my life in this moment with a great deal of pain. I had done for 6 months. I've become so accustomed to it that I don't want to feel like I'm actually feeling safe being in a place of pain. Well, I want to feel safe in a place of being painless. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. I hope you got something out of this video. And remember, if you are having sickness in your life, maybe come back to the emotional place and look in your life for the help with a therapist, and whatever that looks like for you, a kinesiologist, a psychotherapist, a counselor, a functional medicine practitioner, a holistic practitioner, to find a way to get to the emotional content, the emotional seeds that were planted that might have created your health issues in the first place, and then work back from there towards the physical. Because in my experience, that's what works best in regards to retaining and regaining your health from being ill in the first place. Mā te awa. I'll see you again soon.